It's the Security Weekly News, and it's episode 382. Welcome to the week of 28 April 2024. We've got AI and more AI, Okta, Chrome, Quantum, Kaiser Permanente, FTC, FCC, NCSC, Josh Marpet, who doesn't have an acronym, and more on this edition of the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News.
On Business Security Weekly, each week we address the challenges facing CISOs through our guest interviews, including former and active CISOs. Our news segment is focused on leadership and communications to better help security leaders translate and communicate security risks into business risks. Jason Albuquerque, Ben Carr, Tyler Robinson, and others add their expertise to the conversation. I'm Matt Alderman, and I hope you search for Business Security Weekly in your favorite podcast catcher and subscribe to download our latest content.
All right, from exile on the island of Elba, it's the Security Weekly News. I'm Doug White, and welcome to the show. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe on your favorite platform for that rush of endorphins you only get from this show, or maybe from a big hit of Ketracel White. Yeah. All right, anybody get that reference? We'll see. So it's like here on Obscure Reference Weekly. Oh, that's not a very obscure reference if you really want the truth. All right, Okta. Okta warned that a spike in credential stuffing attack was, quote, unprecedented. That sounds bad. And said, it's like when the Pentagon says something was unprecedented. And they said that the attacks were targeting their identity and access management solutions, with some customer accounts being breached in these attacks. If you don't know, or you probably do, but I'll just for some of our viewers, credential stuffing is a term that's used to describe when somebody uses a script and they basically put a text file of account names and passwords, and they basically run the script to try to log in as many times as possible using these various and sundry account. And it's basically the hopes that someone has the same username and password on multiple systems. So when MrFufu.com gets compromised because they have no security at all, they're hoping that you have the exact same login and password as you may be using on, say, nuclearlaunchcodes.gov. And if they can pull that one off, then they get a nice little bonus there of global thermonuclear war. Now, you can buy these things on the dark web. I mean, they sell them with, lists of 100,000, 100 million, pairings that you can purchase for not very much. The Okta advisory said that the attacks originated from the same infrastructure as the brute force and password spraying attacks that were previously reported by Cisco Talos. All of the attacks were coming through Tor because the attackers aren't stupid, and various proxies. So Tor, of course, being a router system that anonymizes all your traffic. And of course, they use proxies and so forth so that you can't trace this back. Okta said that the attacks were particularly successful against organizations who were running on the Okta Classic engine with threat insight configured in audit-only mode rather than in log and enforce mode. So this is one of the Okta identity management systems. It's a different mode that you can run it on. Log and enforce actually blocks traffic rather than audit, which just logs traffic. They also said that the organizations that do not deny access from anonymizing proxies also saw a higher attack success rate. Well, imagine that. I mean, it's unfortunate they have to state these obvious things, but it's good that they're stating them. The recommendation that they gave were that you should, of course, block these attacks at the edge of your network, meaning just don't let them get in at all. And they recommended that you use threat insight in log and enforce mode, which would then, basically take the known list of bad IPs and block those IPs from even being able to get past the border. Basically, that would help you prevent these credential stuffing attacks. They also advise that you deny access from any sort of anonymizing proxies to proactively block requests that come from all these services. It's all good advice, even if you don't use Okta. I mean, this is stuff you should be examining on your own frontiers. my experience was always blocking at the border was the strongest thing you could do. And you can't always do that, but when you can, you should. And if they can't even get past your border, what are they going to do? I mean, they can try to denial of service you or something. But, and of course, you can block this stuff manually with ACLs. You can block it with ASA firewalls or other, any kind of firewall, what have you. But Okta has some recommendations there. So if you're using Okta, you should definitely do these things. If you're not using Okta, you should look at other mitigations to prevent this kind of stuff from going on at all. That will stop it, of course. Chrome 124 version was released last week by Google, and it had a new quantum resistant, I like that term, quantum resistant, X25519 Kyber 768. This is an encapsulation mechanism type of crypto but they enabled it by default all of a sudden. Now, apparently, this change caused some users to report that they could no longer connect to various websites, various servers, and various firewalls. The post-quantum secure TLS key encapsulation has been being tested by Google since back in August of last year, and it's now enabled for everyone in Chrome, apparently by default. I haven't had any trouble with it. I went out and connected a bunch of web servers today, and I didn't see any issues with it. But basically, this is all part of the sort of pre-coming storm kind of thing that is supposedly going to result from the rise of quantum computing. So for once, we are seeing people start moving to develop tools to head this off before it's even a thing. I mean, currently quantum computing is one of those theoretical things that there are some practical implementations of it going on. There are some quantum computers around, but none of them have reached a level of customer end user use. It's still stuff in a government lab or in an IBM lab somewhere that costs a lot of money and takes a lot of equipment to set up. So my belief is that it will be a thing, but it's not a thing yet. But if we did this more, we might be able to avoid some of the nastiness out there on the horizon in the future or something like that, maybe. But quantum computing threatens, the whole, I don't know, paranoia fear thing was about quantum computing suddenly creating a situation where pretty much any existing crypto algorithm could be broken faster than James Bond lock picking a Chubb safe while drinking a martini and groping a possibly evil person, but maybe not. I mean, but this was the fear factor that was introduced. So currently, a lot of companies are working on quantum because, of course, whoever gets it first and can put it in the hands of the general public, hey, you'll be able to look at porn a lot faster than you could before. You'll be able to look at quantum porn, whatever that might be. But I mean, this was definitely the boogeyman of a few years ago in the headline. Now, this new algorithm was put out in hopes of heading off what they call store now, decrypt later attacks. So what this means is that people could gather up lots and lots of encryption now that's not quantum resilient. And then when quantum becomes possible, they will be able to crack all these old messages and all this stuff. And who knows, they may get something good out of it. So this is just saving it up for, later use. But because of that and the discussion around that, a lot of companies are starting to add quantum resistant encryption to their products to try and prevent this from occurring. But in this particular case, they said that some users had their servers drop connections after the TLS handshake because in this new type of encryption, there is extra data in the client hello message. And Google said this was not the fault of Chrome per se, but was rather that the servers were not able to properly implement TLS and couldn't handle the larger client hello message that was being used by the unfortunately named X25519 Kyber 768 encapsulation mechanism. A lot to say. So this is why you don't let engineers name your products, and then the product ends up being called super cool, QR super cool or something like that. But as it is, it's called X25519 Kyber 768 encapsulation mechanisms. But a website called TLDR Fail or TLDR.fail was created to share info on how this works. And if you're interested in reading more about it, I went to the website. It seems safe. Notice I said seemed. I didn't investigate it very thoroughly, but I went there. I wasn't immediately hacked on my sandbox machine, and so it seemed all right. It is possible if you need to disable this to do so. There's a flag you can set in Chrome that basically disables it, and they do have instructions in the article. So if you're having issues, what they advised, of course, was you to fix your servers so that it would work with this. And so, yeah, do that. In the same light, then, along this line of quantum stuff, Australia has decided that they want to be the world leader in quantum, and they want it on the ground in Australia, not somewhere else. So the Australian federal government has allocated 620 million US dollars to support a startup operation called PsiQuantum with the objective of building what is called the world's first utility scale quantum computer. Now, PsiQuantum is currently headquartered in the United States, but it's an Australian company, but they're based in the US. And they've been working with Microsoft and DARPA, all big players. The money is supposed to cause them to do more work at home in Australia rather than abroad to promote what they called sovereign manufacturing capability. So they didn't want Australia to invent something and then all the production of it and use of it goes somewhere else, like happened with solar panels apparently. But essentially, what they want to do is they want a quantum computer. They want it in Australia, and they want it now. So PsiQuantum obviously, gets dangled 640 million US dollars in front of their company. And they said, yeah, you betcha. Just like all of the rest of us would have said, right? I mean, if the Australian government called me this afternoon and said, can you put a quantum computer on the ground in Australia by 2027? I'd be like, yeah, sure. Let's get that money flowing and we'll see what happens. But they did say, PsiQuantum said that by the end of 2027, they would have a utility class quantum computer on the ground in Australia, and that machine would run at that utility scale. Now, if you didn't really know what utility scale meant in computer science, it basically refers to something that can, in general use, outperform a classical binary computer. Because I mean, we can build quantum computers that outperform classical binary computers, but they tend to be very, very lab kind of things. The announcement said that PsiQuantum will use standard silicon wafers and a photonic qubit, which would be adopted from optical communications in order to build this thing. And that would result in a machine with a photonic processor, which would not require the massive supercooling that other quantum computers currently require. I mean, I remember when we had 2-inch water pipes connected to the mainframe to keep the thing cool, and we had liquid nitrogen being dumped into the hard drive packs so that they wouldn't overheat. So things do improve. There's not a clear indication of what the Australian machine would be doing once it's built, but they used a lot of world of tomorrow and solving the problems of the future kind of language that you see from government entities all over the place. I read it that some higher ups in the government said, I don't know what quantum computing is, but I want it, and I want it here, and I want it now, or heads will roll. The scientists then say, well, my lord, that is a much longer and more expensive process, but if you insist and give us lots and lots of money, 3 years later, computers delivered. What is the meaning of life? 42. And I'm not criticizing science, and I'm not criticizing governments for putting money behind science, because that's how we got just about everything we have. I mean, whether you give money to DARPA and they invent the internet or whatnot. I know Al Gore said he did it, but I also know a professor who said he invented it in Poland in the 1970s. But whatever. I'm not criticizing science, and it's great to see money being spent on something other than AI-enabled atomic death rays and +3 swords of groin poisoning. So hopefully there will be a fancy new computer in Queensland that we can all take a crack at, and that can crack all the encryption in the next 3 years. Or some people are going to get shipped across the sea to a penal colony, probably in Queens, New York. That would be my guess, is where the penal colony would be built. Yeah, so, Hey, Astoria. All right. Kaiser Permanente advised 13.4 million million with an M, current and former members and patients who access their websites and mobile apps that certain online tracking tech may have been used to transmit their personal information to third-party vendors like Google, Bing, X, I don't know, the Chinese government, who knows who they sold it to. But when the members went to the websites, they were being tracked. They said that the information involved was limited to the IP address names, information that indicated a member or patient was signed into a Kaiser Permanente account or service, information showing how a member or patient interacted with and navigated through the website and mobile applications, and search terms that were used in the health encyclopedia. So, hey, you know who you are. If you went out there and Google discolored anal flaps, They know who you are, and Meta's probably been sending you some pretty unusual ads right about now. That's why I always, in medical dictionaries, Google like weird alien problems, because I get the most interesting ads that way. What if my tendrils have become contaminated with radioactive isotopes, just to see what kind of ads I get back? But Kaiser Permanente reported the incident on the 12th of April to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, because they're required to do so. And they said no usernames, passwords, social security numbers, financial info, etc., all the usual stuff was released. Kaiser Permanente said that they conducted a voluntary internal investigation into the use of these online technologies and removed them from the websites and mobile apps. In July of 2023, First Health Advisory said that, quote, federal regulators warned hospital systems and telehealth providers that these kinds of third-party trackers could violate the HIPAA or Federal Trade Commission data security rules. So HIPAA is a healthcare law for privacy in the United States. The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and the HHS, the Health and Human Services Group, issued a joint statement, which is unusual, that 130 hospital systems and telehealth providers received a letter warning them about the data privacy and security risks related to the use of these online trackers in their websites and mobile apps. I mean, basically, everybody said, don't do it, man. And the company said, we're going to do it anyway. And he said, don't do it, man. And they said, we're going to do it anyway. And then they did it. And then they apologized for it and made a whole bunch of money selling all this stuff to Meta and Google and X and everybody else, because Meta and Google and X all love to collect this data. And then guess what they do with it? They resell it. That's where they make all their money. Who knows who they sell it to? I mean, they could sell it to anybody, right? They sold it to a guy named Ken in Hackensack. And then he sold it to the Chinese and Augustus de Morgan Gesundheit. I mean, it's amusing and sad how much time we spend trying to ban TikTok because, the children and their data and the children's data. And who knows, it's probably being sold to red Chinese communists. But meanwhile, American companies can just exploit their healthcare customers wantonly, because you don't have a choice about this, right? You have to log in to get your healthcare stuff. I just did this the other day so I could go see my doctor. It's like, you must log into this. And, their privacy stuff, it's like 9,000 pages of legalese, and you don't know what it really says. But at some point, it's like, yeah, we might sell your data, but we don't have any privacy laws here, for the children. But TikTok now, that's going to stop. Let me tell you, that'll fix it. I know I'm hung up on the TikTok thing. Well, speaking of privacy anyway, the Federal Communications Commission, which is called the FCC in the United States, on Monday handed out $200 million with an M dollars in fines against wireless carriers for, wait for it, sharing customer location data without their consent. That was the end result of claims that AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, and T-Mobile had all improperly sold access to the user's personal information to data aggregators like Meta, Google, X, a guy named Ken that lives in Hackensack, the whole thing. And of course, the data aggregators then resell the data to third parties, who then resold the data to fourth parties. And they resold it to fifth parties, who then turned around and resold it to the first party of the second part, again, because they were buying data that they needed to try to reach new customers, and then found out that it was all the data they had sold in the first place. And Augustus de Morgan again. That's the second time I've said Augustus de Morgan today, before the moon rises. And, it's, if you say it three times in one day, a 17th century mathematician will appear and stick their fingers in your mouth. So I'm going to have to watch it for the rest of the day, because I tend to say that a lot. Anywho, all the providers disputed these claims and vowed to appeal. We would never do such a thing. Oh, no way, man. We're good guys. Don't be evil and all that stuff. But a bipartisan proposal in the United States Congress earlier this month produced a large-scale privacy proposal. It was a repeat of one they'd had before that got defeated. And this would set a federal baseline around how companies may collect, use, and share users' personal data in the United States. But the bill has all kinds of problems with consumer advocacy groups, nonprofits, and others, who are concerned that what the bill would actually do is strip the FCC of any ability to police privacy abuses in the telco sector. Because in the new bill, most of the privacy oversight would be offloaded to the Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC. So basically what they were arguing was that the FCC knows how to deal with these telcos, although they haven't demonstrated that very effectively in the past, and that the FTC would have no idea and would get steamrollered by all the big telcos. Yeah. And this new bill would prevent the FCC from issuing fines like the one we just talked about. So basically, the bill is being opposed by lots of groups on all sides, mostly people who would not be able to sell your info to third parties for profit. But some people seem to feel that the FTC would not have the expertise to govern telcos. And since that's the purview of the FCC, and the FCC would fight the FTC, and the FTC would fight the FCC, and they'd all fight the HHS and the DHS, and I'll be in Scotland before you. EIEIO. And, basically they think it would just turn into a giant snake pit. I don't know about it. I mean, let's get somebody on it. As it stands, they can pretty much do whatever they want, right? I mean, there's some guidelines, but yeah, right. It's a big sticky situation. And all the lobbyists are lining up to fill the troughs with giant money bags. That's the big bags that have, loot written on the side of it, or euro symbols or whatever. But the lobbyists are lining up to prevent it. The telcos are fighting it. They're going to sue. I mean, I don't have a problem with all those money bags. They just need to send me some of them. I mean, I could be a puppet of the running dog post-capitalist machine. Come on. Like, I love that. I mean, I can be the pink lady. Just, make sure those money bags get delivered to my house. Come on. I mean, like, you want me to be on your side? You got to bribe me. Come on. It's straight up. Well, the United Kingdom's, speaking of acronyms, the National Cybersecurity Center, the NCSC, and that's center spelled with an R before the E, remember, they've called on manufacturers to comply with new rules that were passed in the UK that prohibit the use of default passwords starting yesterday, the 29th of April. This law is called the Product Security and Telecommunications Infrastructure Act. And it is an attempt to allow consumers to have more information about the smart devices they have and to choose better ones that have more security. Now, manufacturers are required to not supply the devices with guessable default passwords, like, say, Password or Cisco. And they must provide a point of contact to report security issues, provide the expected lifespan of the device during which it will receive security updates, and so forth. This law applies to the following: smart speakers, smart doorbells, baby monitors, security cameras, cellular tablets, smartphones, game consoles, wearable fitness trackers, smart watches, smart domestic appliances such as light bulbs, plugs, kettles, thermostats, ovens, refrigerators, washing machines, sex toys, you name it. If it's got a default password, if your sex toy's password is sex toy, that's bad. So failure to comply can result in fines or mandatory recalls of these various things, which would make the UK the first country in the world to outlaw default usernames and passwords on a lot of devices. Now, all of this is coming out of all the Mirai botnet type attacks, which continue to be a huge problem, coupled with billions of IoT devices that have password set to password. I mean, your great Aunt Ida doesn't know how to change that, but really does like watching what the neighbors are up to through the Ring Cam. People like that. Yeah, I've had people like that were like, I collect all this Ring Cam footage of what my neighbors are doing. I'm like, cool, that's great for you. All right. Well, the United States government has released a new set of security guidelines which are focused on critical infrastructure versus AI threats. That sounds ominous. The statement says, quote, "These guidelines are informed by the whole of government effort to assess AI risks across all 16 critical infrastructure sectors and address threats both to and from and involving AI systems." The Department of Homeland Security, which is called DHS, released this statement in the United States yesterday. DHS went on and said that it is working to facilitate safe, responsible, and trustworthy use of tech in a manner that does not infringe on individuals' privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties. And that sex robot that Elon Musk was talking about yesterday, would not be included. So don't worry. You can get your Elon Musk cyber sex robot that won't make fun of your sexual techniques real soon now. But the report focuses on several key areas and has 4 main bullets. Establish an organizational culture of AI risk management. Okay. Understand your individual AI use context and risk profile. Okay. Develop systems to assess, analyze, and track AI risks. Okay. And prioritize and act upon AI risks to safety and security. All right. All those are things. Take the word AI out of it, and it's stuff you should be doing anyway, right? And I don't really know why we need a special statement of the exact same thing with AI in it, but that is the way everything is now, right? I bought some soap yesterday, and it was like AI ready, quantum soap, AI enabled, cleans you like never before, cleans yourself, because you can, with it's Schrodinger's soap. You can be both dirty and clean at the same time. It's amazing. Like I'm both washed and unwashed all at the same time. But Five Eyes Intelligence, which is Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the UK, and the US, had released a cybersecurity information sheet very similar to this about setup and configuration of AI systems 3 weeks ago. Now, numerous issues around AI are rising quickly as AI gets embedded in everything from your can opener to your shaving foam to your soap to your tire irons, and everything else is now AI enabled. And some of the recent concerns have been around prompt injections, where somebody can interact with the AI appearing to be the user, or a what they call a crescendo technique, which is basically where you take these large language models or LLMs, jailbreak them, and then basically pump them with false information sort of slowly. You don't do it all at once. You just sort of slowly start injecting question lines and approving those and saying, yes, what a great answer. Oh my God, that answer is amazing. Yes. But this tricks the AI language model into generating malicious content by asking carefully crafted questions, prompts that lead the LLM down some yellow brick road to telling you something that they want you to hear. Heroin. It's what's for dinner. I mean, this can be used for marketing. It could also be used to lead people into phishing lures, but AI can be manipulated into attacking websites and exfiltrating data, et cetera. I mean, the world of Case and Dixie Flatline was probably going to be on us really, really a lot sooner than William Gibson was probably imagining. Yeah. Well, many years later, as he faced the firing squad, Colonel Aureliano Buendia was to remember that distant afternoon when his father took him to discover ice and when he first heard Josh Marpet on the radio. Hi, Josh.
I swear to God, man, you're killing me today. I'm crying. I'm laughing so hard.
Well, that's good to hear.
I've been typing some sayings that you've had into the Slack because we need to save them. I mean, discolored radioactive anal tendrils. I'm sorry. Oh.
Okay, now I'm amused.
Schrodinger's quantum AI-powered soap.
Hey.
And heroin. It's what's for dinner. Oh my God, man. I had to put
so many
mute
taglines, so little time.
I had to put mute on because I was laughing so damn hard. Okay, deep breath. All right.
Just and scene.
Oh, dude, I was literally crying. I was laughing so hard.
I live to amuse Josh.
Holy crap. I swear to God, I'm like, is he doing this just so he can see me cry on camera?
That's my goal in life. Yeah. It's like, if I
Like,
had cocaine, I could be Robin Williams on Johnny Carson.
Yeah, well, so was he. But anyway. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's talk RSA. Dear God, man. Okay, so RSA is a conference that happens every year in San Francisco, home of homeless people and sidewalk feces. So the idea is that it is a total vendor con. It is where you go to meet CISOs, see new products. It's where you go to see what's going on in terms of hype and a little bit of reality. They do have some great startup, whatever they call it, startup competitions there. And there's a lot of great parties and a lot of great get-togethers. A lot of my friends go to RSA. I'm not going this year to see each other and hang out. This is literally, there are people that this has happened my entire career. There are people that live 20 miles away from me that I only see in Vegas once a year, something like that. This is very common. So RSA is one of those conferences that a significant chunk of the InfoSec industry just stops what they're doing and goes to. And if you're listening, you probably already know that. But every year it gets more and more interesting. Clark Barron, who's a friend of mine from Ronin, actually put together an RSA survival book, a little booklet that you can get on his LinkedIn. And the link is in obviously the show notes. He has ideas in there on what you can do. And he actually went around and he asked a lot of people, what is the one thing that when you're at RSA you should do? From a vendor point of view, from an attendee point of view, that kind of thing. And he has quite a few of these tips in there. I will admit that I have one of the tips. Mine is as a vendor, don't bullshit people. If you don't know, say so. And then that gives you an opportunity to get their contact information and come back to them with the correct information as fast as you can, which will impress them that you're actually not a total bullshitter. Because I will tell you right now, a pretty significant part of the people at RSA, the vendors at RSA, are bullshitting. They are so many copies of current and existing products and done badly. They are there with too much money, not enough sense, and way too much marketing budget. It is absolutely terrifying how many times at RSA and other conferences as well, I've seen vendors and I've been like, what are you selling? And they tell me, and I go, no, that doesn't make sense. That's not going to work. Like, well, what do you know? I know a little, and I don't think that's going to work. And here's why. Tick, 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 tick. And they tell me that I obviously need to talk to their engineer. And when I talk to their engineer, I find out that they really, it's not going to work. That happens so much, it's not even funny. Whatever vendors you see at RSA, hell, whatever vendors you see at any show, please engage your critical faculties piece of your brain. Now, mind you, obviously, get the swag. We all know that. Doug is famous for that. I don't think there's an article of Doug's clothing that isn't swag related in some form or fashion. Okay. Even his hair, they were handing out. Never mind. I'm not going to talk about toupees. So, sorry, Doug, I had to do it. Don't kill me. But the idea here is that you want to use your critical faculties. You want to go in and see if there's anything actually new. And by the way, if it says AI, it's not new. All right, let's be clear on that. AI is a fantastic assistant. AI is a fantastic information collation and data analysis engine. It is not creative. It is not going to take over everything under the sun, and it is not going to take away everybody's jobs. So if somebody says AI is all you need, they're wrong. That's number one. Except if it's soap. If it's soap, man, AI is amazing in soap. Like it's insanely good. Okay, let's be clear. Quantum powered AI aware soap. Awesome stuff. But seriously, most of the stuff that people are touting at RSA, it's bullshit. Find the people that are talking real stuff. Find the people that are actually saying real things, some of which are incredibly innovative, some of which are just basic stuff that they've amped up another step or two, which is just as wonderful. Don't get me wrong. Because look, if I know I'm old, but if I start screaming, do the fundamentals one more God blessed time on a call, it's going to be the fifth time today. Okay. So anybody that has something that is fundamental, we've been doing it for years, but they figured out a clever way to do it one little tick more. Hey, that's awesome. I want to see those. If you can make my life easier doing patch management, if you can make my life easier doing asset inventory, information inventory, data flow diagrams, threat modeling, awesome. I'd rather companies bought that than the latest AI powered soap, for God's sakes. Okay. So when you go to these shows, grab Clark Barron's guide, go there with an idea of what you're looking for, swag, of course, but also the technologies you're looking for. And please, 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 please use your critical faculties and don't get too drunk and then signing contracts. There are some salespeople that have been known to do that to people. So be careful. All right, look, have a good time. And there is RSA bingo in the link. And I will admit that the dark web aware quantum AI square in there, Clark took from me. So go have fun, have a good time, be careful, use your critical faculties. And remember, 90% of the companies at RSA are either selling full bullshit or they're giving you bullshit differentiators from the 5 other competitors that do exactly the same thing. Careful. Back to you, Doug.
Thank you, Josh. I got my hair from that body hair recovery hair place. So it was really painful when they injected it all. But, it's there.
Digital forensics and hair plugs. There you go.
Yeah. And it's AI enabled. So my hair knows more about what's going on than I do. And, it could even be Schrodinger's hair. And it's both there and not there at the same time. So it's really complex at this point in history. Thank you, Josh. And finally, according to The Verge, since we're on AI today anyway, users of Meta's AI platform who provided a credit card to the AI. Okay. I love it when I read stuff like that. It's like, people who went up to a con man and handed them the credit. Yeah, they provided a credit card to the AI, have been getting burned by an AI powered ad purchasing system. Imagine that. But basically what the concept was that you fund it with your credit card. The AI will automatically set up your ads, target the audience, find market segments, and build custom clickable ads for that particular segment, and then spend your ad budget, which means you can fire your PR team and avoid all that nasty decision-making you've been having to do in your ad campaign. Like, should we use nudity or not nudity? Like, the AI will decide it for you, sir. It's no longer necessary for you to make these kind of hard decisions. But customers said then the AI burned through the daily ad budget in a couple of hours, and the costs were more than 10 times what was stated. Ruh-roh. I mean, you tell the AI, look, Hal, we need to sell these Veeble Feasters and sell them fast. I mean, fast. Make people want a brand new Veeble Feaster today. And the AI says, so if I made them addictive? I mean, whoa, wait, you already approved that, human. And yes, in my head, all the meta AI and ad machines are Ferengis. But so now you have to buy them. I mean, it makes total logical sense, right? Why not addict everybody to the brand new Veeble Feasters, and then they will have to buy them? Profit. It's like the 35th rule of acquisition or something. I mean, me snorting another link of ground Veeble Feasters. I can feel it working. But anyway, the AI system in question is called the Advantage Plus Shopping Campaign, and it's supposed to facilitate a lot of ad setups. I mean, it does sound like a good idea, but Google has something as well called PMax, which unfortunately sounds a lot like some kind of diuretic. But, what do I know? I mean, I don't name things. But I had a cat named Mr. Cat, for God's sake. But I mean, basically, these things can try hundreds or thousands of combinations to find the most clickable ad, much faster than a human who is sitting in a room somewhere going, nope, 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 maybe, nope, nope, no. Yeah, I mean, and they don't tend to hang themselves after like 5 days on the job, or if they do, you can just reboot them and they're back in business. I mean, reports said that the AI blew through 75% of the daily ad budget for 2 different clients in a couple of hours, and that the cost per impression were about 10 times higher than normal. But hey, wait, there's a redeeming factor. The revenue from the ads was nearly zero. Right. So, well, anyway, I'm not nearly as afraid of Terminators as I am from door-to-door Veeble Feaster salespeople that are AI enabled. They're going to shoot me with an AI dart that addicts me to an AI-developed alkaloid called Ketracel White that I have to have 7 times a day from happyland.com, or I have a full body spasms and loss of bowel control. Although I did get that from a food cart on 34th Street one time, too. But, I mean, I guess we'll see what we're all addicted to in the AI-driving future. You betcha. Anyway, from the Island of Elba, that's the news. Thank you, Josh, for another great story about RSA, and see you Friday on the Security Weekly News. We're AI enabled.